The Svetitskhoveli Cathedral is an Eastern Orthodox cathedral located in the historic town of Mtskheta, Georgia, to the northwest of the Georgian capital Tbilisi. A masterpiece of the early Middle Ages, Svetitskhoveli is recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. It is currently the second largest church building in Georgia, after the Holy Trinity Cathedral, known as the burial site of Christ's mantle. Svetitskhoveli has long been one of the principal Georgian Orthodox churches and is among the most venerated places of worship in the region. The present structure was completed in 1029 by the medieval Georgian architect Mtskheta. Although the site itself dates back to the early 4th century, Svetitskhoveli is considered an endangered cultural landmark. It has survived a variety of adversities, and many of its priceless frescoes have been lost due to being razed and whitewashed by the Russian imperial authorities. History. Early history. The original church was built in 4th century AD during the reign of Mirian III of Kartli. St. Nino is said to have chosen the confluence of the Mtskheta and Arugvi rivers as the place of the first Georgian church. According to Georgian hagiography, in the 1st century AD a Georgian Jew from Mtskheta named Elias was in Jerusalem when Jesus was crucified. Elias bought Jesus' robe from a Roman soldier at Golgotha and brought it back to Georgia. Returning to his native city, he was met by his sister Sidonia, who upon touching the robe immediately died from the emotions engendered by the sacred object. The robe could not be removed from her grasp, so she was buried with it. The place where Sidonia is buried with Christ's robe is preserved in the cathedral. Later, from her grave grew an enormous cedar tree. Ordering the cedar chopped down to build the church, St. Nino had 7 columns made from it for the church's foundation. The 7th column, however, had magical properties and rose by itself into the air. It returned to earth after St. Nino prayed the whole night. It was further said that from the magical 7th column a sacred liquid flowed that cured people of all diseases. In Georgian, Sveti means pillar and Skhoveli means life-giving or living, hence the name of the cathedral. An icon portraying this event can be seen on the 2nd column on the right hand from the entrance. Reproduced widely throughout Georgia, it shows Sidonia with an angel lifting the column in heaven. St. Nino is in the foreground. King Mirian and his wife, Queen Nana, are to the right and left. Georgia officially adopted Christianity as its state religion in 337. Medieval and modern. Svetitskhoveli Cathedral, originally built in the 4th century, has been damaged several times during history, notably by the invasions of Arabs, Persians, and Timur, and latterly during Russian subjugation and the Soviet period. The building has also been damaged by earthquakes. During the restoration of 1970-71, which was presided over by V. Sadze, the base of the basilica built in the late 5th century by King Vakhtang Gorgasali after St. Nino's original church was found. During the early years of Georgian church building, the basilica was the dominant type of the Georgian church architecture before the cross-dome style emerged. In the 11th century, the present Svetitskhoveli Cathedral was rebuilt in the cross-dome style by the architect Mtskheta, at the invitation of the Catholicos Melchizedek of Georgia. The king of Georgia for the time was Georgi I. The cathedral is surrounded by a defensive wall, built of stone and brick during the reign of King Arikul II in 1787. The top story was designed for military purposes and has gun emplacements. The entrance to the cathedral from the wall is located to the west. The wall has 8 towers. 6 of them are cylindrical and 2 of them are square. Archaeological expeditions in 1963 found the house of Patriarch of the 11th century at the southern part of the wall. Inside the churchyard, the remains of the 2-story castle of Patriarch Anton II were found. Architecture. Design of the present cathedral. Svetitskhoveli Basilica. The base of the 3-story basilica, supposed to have been built by Vakhtang Gorgasali after St. Nino's original church, has been found by archaeologists during the restoration of 1970-71. Modern cross-dome Svetitskhoveli. The architecture of the present Svetitskhoveli Cathedral, which dates from around 1020, is based on the cross-dome style of church architecture, which emerged in Georgia in the early Middle Ages and became the principal style after the political unification of Georgia by Bagrat III. The characteristic of this style is that the dome is placed across all 4 sides of church. The structure of the church is intended to ensure good acoustics. The dome of Svetitskhoveli was reconstructed several times over the centuries to keep the church in good condition. The basic stone used for the cathedral is a sandy yellow with trimmings, while around the apse window a red stone is used. The green stone used in the drum of the cupola is from the 17th century. The curved blind arcading throughout is unaltered from the 11th century. A large window occupies most of the western top side of the church. The decoration shows the Christ sitting and 2 angels at both sides. The original sculpture on the wall has not survived, but was restored several times, most recently in the 19th century. The architect Mtskheta, a legend, surrounds a relief sculpture on the external northern wall. This shows a right arm and hand holding a chisel, symbol of the stonemason, with an inscription reads. An inscription on the east facade further attests to the fact that Mtskheta did not live to see his masterpiece finished. Konstantin Gamsakhurdia's novel The Hand of the Great Master relates the legend, for which there is no documentary evidence, that a priest who had also been Mtskheta's patron and teacher was so jealous of Mtskheta's success that he used his influence with the king to have the architect's right hand cut off. According to the novel, King George was also jealous of Mtskheta over his lover, the beautiful Shorana. Icons and frescoes. The cathedral interior walls were once fully adorned with medieval frescoes, but many of them did not survive. In the 1830s, when Emperor Nicholas I was scheduled to visit Mtskheta, Russian authorities razed the galleries and whitewashed timeless frescoes as part of an effort to give the cathedral a tidier look. In the end, the Tsar never even came. Today, after much careful restoration, some frescoes survive, including a 13th-century depiction of the Beast of the Apocalypse and figures of the Zodiac. The walls are decorated with many Christian Orthodox icons, most of which are not original. The decoration of the church stonework also features carved grapes, reflecting the country's ancient winemaking traditions. The large figure of Jesus at the altar was painted by a Russian artist in the 19th century. The majority of the icons here date to the 20th century. Some are copies of older icons and frescoes from other churches throughout Georgia. 2 bulls' heads on the east facade, remnants of the 5th century church, attest to the folk influence on Christian iconography in that early period. Baptismal font on the right side from the entrance of the cathedral is a stone baptismal font dating from the 4th century. It is thought to have been used for the baptism of King Miriam and Queen Nana. Immediately behind the font is a reproduction of the relief of Mtskheta's right hand and bevel found on the north facade. symbolic copy of the Chapel of Holy Sepulchre. On the south side there is a small stone church built into the cathedral. This is a symbolic copy of the Chapel of Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, built between the end of the 13th and the beginning the 14th centuries. It was erected here to mark Svetitskhoveli as the second most sacred place in the world, thanks to Christ's throne. In front of this stone chapel, the most westerly structure aligned with the columns between the aisle and the nave marks Sidonia's grave. Remains of the original life-giving pillar are also here. It was built in the 17th century. Scenes of the lives of King Miriam and Queen Anna, and portraits of the first Christian Byzantine Emperor Constantine I and his mother Helena, were painted by Gigul Zavarashvili at the time. Traces of the foundations of the 4th century church have been found here. Throne of Catholicos Patriarch. The second structure aligned with the columns of the southern aisle was also built in the 17th century as the throne of Catholicos Mtskheta. It no longer serves this function, as current tradition requires a throne for the Georgian Patriarch to be in the center of the church. Burials in the cathedral. Svetitskhoveli was not only the site of the coronation of the Georgian kings but also served as the burial place. 10 are known to have been buried here, although only 6 tombs have been found, all before the altar. The tomb of King Vakhtang Ghazali can be identified by the small candle fortress standing before it. King Erekle II's tomb is identifiable by the sword and shield upon it. His son, George XII, was the last king of Georgia, and his marble tomb is next to his father's. Also in front of the altar are tombs of David VI, George VIII, Tbilisi.A, and various members of the Bagrationi royal family, including Tamar, the first wife of George XI, whose epitaph, dating from 1684, is written both in Georgian and Arabic script. Other burials. Domenchus IV, Georgia. Threats. A 2010 UNESCO report has found that structural issues threaten the overall stability of the cathedral. Images.